Welcome to the Bulldog State of Mind podcast, brought to you by the Fresno State Staff Assembly Executive Committee. Here are your hosts, Belinda Munoz and Melissa Norris.
Welcome to Bulldog State of Mind. Today we're going to share some stories. We're going to talk about our connections and experiences on our Fresno State campus. Today we have 3 of the 4 executive board team from Staff Assembly, and I'm excited to just have this conversation with all of you.
I'm with you. I'm excited too. I think whether you're a student, your staff on campus, alumni, I think there's something really special to be said about Fresno State and our campus. So I'm excited to kind of dive a little deeper into why Fresno State is so special to us. And more importantly, I'm excited to have our special guest with us today, Patricia Benavides from Student Involvement and, as Belinda said, from Staff Assembly Executive Committee. It'll be fun to have just kind of a little fun chat and conversation about Fresno State. We want to welcome our listeners to tune in and add some comments and tell us why you love Fresno State. So let's jump right in. I think the first question I have, and something I thought we could chat about, is what brought each of us to Fresno State? And I'll say for me personally, I was born and raised here in Fresno. So my family, my life, my world is all here in Fresno. I never thought twice about where I was going to go as a student. It was always Fresno State. I didn't apply anywhere else. It's funny. I still remember people looking at me like, are you sure you don't want to apply to other No, I'm going to Fresno State. Why go somewhere else when you can go to Fresno State? But what brought each of you to Fresno State?
Oh, well, I was born and raised here as well. So my previous job before I started here was in education, and I really enjoyed that and liked that. And it actually took me 2 years to apply to Fresno State to actually get in here. So well worth the wait. Awesome. So, but that's what brought me here. So it's just more of, I worked in different capacities, right? So worked for the county for a little bit, and that was like actually juvenile probation. So there's always been a little bit of an element of young people that I've worked with. And so obviously Fresno State, like, if this is the pride and joy of the Valley, so where else would I want to be, right? And plus just a good job for me and my family. I did stay at home momming for a while. That's a gig that's really hard, doesn't pay well, but this one really does. And it still taps into that nurturing quality that I like to give. So, and that's what brought me here. I was finally able to get in, and it's going to be hard to get me out. You're going to have to kick me out, kicking and screaming. So
We
wouldn't dare try, Patricia. You're stuck with us now.
Well, and for those of you who remember, Patricia's the one that really brings the energy at our holiday party. Well, any event that Staff Assembly hosts, but she's the one. I have had so many people since our holiday party say, who was the girl with the red fedora?
Yes, I got asked that many times too.
So obviously I don't mind to stand out.
You're famous.
You're famous with your red fedora.
Red fedora, right? This is why I have my red lips on today. There's power in red lips, y'all. Just put on some red lipstick and go and get through the day. So,
but we also tease her about your big hoops that you wear. And we're like, okay, the red fedora, that's the nice Patricia. When she's got the hoops on, we're like, whoa, what's going on?
Well, I really like being around, like, our staff, right? I feel like we all have really great staff here. Like, I haven't gone up to any staff member when I was asking for help that ever gave me attitude or ever told me, why don't you know that? Or you should know that. They have always been like, yeah, I can help you, or I don't know. But, I know who you can ask. And so, shout out to all the people that have helped me in my journey, my accounting people. Like, I could give you a whole big list, right? Cynthia, Jean, like everybody, down to, facilities people. So that's just, staff has always been great about helping. And so I always get real excited when we all get together, because then there's people that I see in an email. The holiday party is great, right? Because the people I see in an email, I get to see them in person. I'm like, oh, hey, I see your name on the email. And then it's like, and then it's almost like family vibe. Like, holiday celebration is really great because it's just that whole vibe of, I know you, I know of you, but I get to see you in person, right? And we get to all just kind of mingle. So it's really that energy that I, kind of pick up from everybody and want to just make sure everybody knows that, I'm happy that we're all here together. So
So going back to the question of what brought me to Fresno State. So I actually spent 20 years prior to Fresno State in the financial industry, working in a bank. And I started that because I was a young mom who was also going to school. And so I needed just that little getaway because being a stay-at-home mom is a lot of work. And so I started that out and I did my career and I advanced in, different opportunities and supervision positions and management. And, I did training and quality control. It was great. I had the opportunity to learn so much and do a little bit of traveling with my job. And then, as with most financial industries, there was a merger, and then soon thereafter another merger, and I also had 4 robberies during that time, and so I thought, this might be a good time. I had an opportunity to step away, and I don't think I would have stepped away because you get so comfortable in your environment, and it's what I knew because it was my first job outside of high school. And so I would have stayed there had that opportunity not come up where I had, to walk away. And I found myself still looking at other jobs in banks. And then this came up. And I came in as a temporary foundation employee, so I left a full-time benefited job to come to Fresno State. And a lot of people were like, really? Are you crazy? But I thought for me, it was you see Fresno State and you think, okay, that looks like a great place to work. So I took the jump. I took the chance. I did it. And I came in here because of my financial background, was able to do a lot of the budgeting, was familiar with it. And then once I got here, I'm like, okay, I don't think I'm leaving. And
I feel like this fits in better with your fun personality than a bank. Like I'm trying to picture in a bank that's kind of
well,
calm
now you know why I wear
cold.
heels all the time.
Exactly. That's why you wear your heels in your executive style, which I appreciate. But
I will tell you though, because of my background, in the banking industry, you wore nylons, you wore high heels, you were in business suits all the time. That when I started working here, that's all I had. I didn't have tennis shoes and jeans and T-shirts to come to work in. And when I started seeing like, oh yeah, that's, Fresno State shirt, I was like, what? I don't have to wear nylons. It was exciting.
that was a plus for me too.
Oh, that was, I'm not going to lie, that was probably what kept me here. I'm like, all right, I don't wear nylons anymore. You won. That's where I'm
You're like sold.
I think Fresno State has a funny way of drawing you in, whether it was the first place you started or, again, that transition midway through. There's something that keeps us here. And I think some of it is what you talked about, Patricia. I think there's a big part of it being the people. Because the community here is it's unique for so many reasons. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I think it's also, this campus is very embedded in traditions. And, we talked a little bit about some of our own traditions kind of as part of staff assembly with like our holiday party and our celebrations. But what are some of those traditions or events on this campus that are really close to your heart and something you appreciate about this space?
Well, I know we probably take it for granted, the Red Fridays that we have. But I really appreciate the Red Fridays because my first experience, I think it was probably in my first week because I started in the beginning of the month. And so I think that Red Friday happened within my first week, right? Because when I first came, listen, they gave me free swag. They had this cute little poster and I was like, either this is a lot of work, like why are they so excited and happy to see me? But it turned out really well. But anyways, going to that Red Friday and kind of learning about what it was is that I would never know what each department does if those weren't there. And I wouldn't really be able to, I probably wouldn't have gone out on my own to do anything to meet other staff or to meet other people in their departments because it's so big, right? And I think we get so caught up in our own little circle, our own little area. And so I appreciate Red Fridays being that little bit of time to go out, even with your little group, to meet everybody else's other little group. And then when prizes, I was like, wow, what? Like, Fresno State really likes to give away stuff like swag, like all the time. So it's like, I am totally in the right place, and I'm digging this really, really a lot. But I really appreciate the Red Fridays, because then that's how I got to meet you. And then, connected to the holiday party, and just really being able to kind of just interact and engage. And that's why things like that are important, because we have to continue our engagement. We have to take that time to take a break and just get to know people.
For me, I think the tradition that stands out to me that I really enjoy is the breakfast, the Vintage Days breakfast. Because it was the first time that I had gone to a Vintage Days breakfast. You have your leadership and president, and now I'll be honest with you, I didn't know who they were when I first went. I saw these people in suits and heels that were flipping pancakes and serving us, and I'm like, what's going on here? And then I realized that they were, that it was actually our leadership team and our cabinet members who were actually flipping pancakes, literally flipping pancakes, and serving us. And I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but I'm glad to be bringing that back, that they're going to be able to flip some pancakes for us again. But I thought that was kind of neat. And so since then, and it was just so many people, and, student involvement was had it all set up for Vintage Days later on that day, and going and grabbing food from our students. It was just a nice day to get out of the office and really enjoy. And that's probably the one that stands out to me the most, that I really enjoy.
Yeah, I think we all have those traditions, I think, within our departments, our work. Maybe it's staff gatherings that we do, or potlucks, or celebrations with our students that we work with. But I think it's really unique to have that space to gather away from work and the traditional, here's what I need to get done today, and instead be able to see people in that space. Because I think, as we talked about, the people are a huge part of why we do what we do at Fresno State. Whether that be the students or our colleagues across the campus, our leadership that we're working with. So are there some individuals that you maybe want to give a little shout out to who have impacted your time here at Fresno State?
Okay, so I already told my person, I said, I'm going to talk about you today, so don't get mad, because, well, you can get mad, it's fine, it's your choice. But when I came in, I work with Mirzad Zarin. If you know, you know. She's like that. She's that energy. She's that host. She's iconic to me, Mirzad's like, because she's so authentic in herself and genuine, and she's just this plethora of knowledge. And I'm so fortunate to be able to work under someone like that. And then, I have, Dr. Amy Allen as well now. But Mirzad, she's made the most impact because she was like from the very beginning when I started.
And I love her personality.
Oh my God, I love
She's
Mirzad.
just so out there.
She's so straightforward, yet just genuine.
Listen,
And
Mirzad is what they say.
she
Mirzad's
will
a
give you
vibe.
the shirt off her back.
And that's the thing, is that she's willing to help you and support you in whatever way she can. And with her knowledge, it's just so fantastic, like what she knows. And she's one of those, when I walk around campus with her, she knows so many people, right? Hey, how you doing? And then people she doesn't know, she's like, hey, you're new. Where are you from? Who do you belong to? Like, okay. Like, she's just, so she, always encourages me to like, oh, so you can like be like that. And she was always willing to share her knowledge and her expertise with me. And not only that, but ask me, right? I think what's important and what I found so incredible within my department is that they ask me, so what do you think? And what do you think of this? And how do you think that could work? So as much knowledge and experience that she had, she was always open and willing to hear me and my view of how do we change this? How do we make this better? Although now it probably annoys her now because I'm like, can we? She's like, stop it. She's like, stop. So, but, let's tell what's your own fault. You let me do it in the beginning. So no, but just that openness and just that collaboration of, I was never ever made to feel like I was just admin support, right? Like you're just filing papers and answering phones. Like in my department, I was never made to feel that way. And especially her. So when I started, it's so funny because the 2 leadership people that I had, it was a very interesting interview. That's a really good story, but maybe too long for another day. But what's I think is special about here too is 2 opposite ends of the spectrum of personalities, but we were still working together and doing things and getting things done. And it's really helped me with that skill of being able to shift and change and work with the different personalities and how do we find like that compromise. So
I think there's so much to be said about working with individuals who truly value your input, your ideas, your thoughts. And I think Fresno State has a lot of people like that. I mean, coming from Fresno State as a student, both undergrad and grad, I had individuals on this campus who, even as a freshman, were asking my opinion about things or asking me to be a part of things as an inaugural group that they were trying to develop. And hey, what would you like to see it like? And that was such a powerful thing. And I think that stayed true throughout my years at Fresno State. But I remember individuals like Chris Fiorentino over at the Richter Center, Brianne Scoggin, who used to be in student involvement. These were individuals both as a student and even now in my professional career who truly made that impact on me because they showed me directly what that meant to say our students add value. They have something to say. And it's important that we hear that and we carry forward to make sure that our students are at the focus of what we do. So I think them modeling that has shaped my career and kind of how I look at the students that I work with and how I work with the programs that I do. But it just is it's a very special feeling, especially when as a student, again, I think of myself as a freshman on this campus going, they want to know what I think about this? Like, are you sure? Like, that was something that baffled me, I think, as a student. And again, to see that continued approach of wanting to involve the people that we work with. We don't know it all in our positions. Our president doesn't know it all. He relies on us to be able to provide that input to him. So it makes it extra special, I think.
For me, there's so many people that honestly that I could mention because I have been very blessed to have connections with a lot of people and a lot of leadership and a lot of just individuals across campus. I will say that there's 2 people that stand out to me, and ironically, neither one of them are with Fresno State anymore. But you know, Tasha Jafrida, she was one of my first bosses on campus, and loved her. And she and I still stay in connection with one another. But she saw something. She, I transitioned very quickly because remember, I came to campus with, part-time, temporary person, no benefit, that type of thing. So she saw something and quickly transitioned me over to a stateside position. And like you were saying, valued what I said. And I think we became a really good duo in our office. And I think we worked really well together. And she empowered me by feeling as if what I had to say was important. And she gave me, she was definitely not a micromanager, so she gave me that leeway to kind of make things my own and find my way across Fresno State. But the other person that I would say was Katie Williamson, because she was the chair of staff assembly prior to me. And again, it was one of those things that she came to me and said, "Oh, join our team." And then she saw something in me that said, about taking this over. And so and here I am, that I've had my opportunity with being the chair of staff assembly. So those 2 really made an impact on me. Now, granted, I was also in the CLEAR program, which is a great program. There's lots of mentoring programs. That's the other thing about Fresno State is they offer so many different mentoring programs. Yeah. So there's just so much. But yeah, so those are the 2 that I would think.
So we have Katie to thank for you being in staff assembly.
either thank her or, not, because you're
Thank
like,
her.
holy moly, you really gave us her. No, I'm just
Yeah. No, I like those programs too. She was a admin professionals
Yes.
academy, right?
Yes.
Which is still going, which I think was great
Yes.
to meet other admin professionals, because
Yeah.
support staff really doesn't get out. Like, if you want to know the ones who get out the least, like, it's us, because we just have to like get it done. So I appreciate. We have a lot of amazing people that I think we could talk about as far as But yeah,
But again, we'd be here all day.
we'd be here all day, so I have to, edit myself there. So
All right. Well, then I have a challenge for us since we have so many words.
Oh gosh.
Okay. If you could describe your Fresno State experience in one word, what would it be? And I'm going to be transparent. I have no clue what my word is yet, so I got to think about this.
I'm going to use a word that my best friend and she likes to say how many years and that we've been best friends, but I'm going to say since kindergarten, so like 5 years, maybe 20. I don't know. No. So my best friend Sandy tells me all the time. She says, "You don't work because you're always having so much fun." So when she sees what I do, she sees it as fun. And I tell her, having that fun is a lot of work, though, right? We do a lot of work to put the fun
is
together.
a lot of work. That's we can get into a whole episode about how planning fun is work. But yeah,
So I would say my word would be fun. I come
I
to
like
work
it.
and I find joy in a lot of things that I do.
so I thought about I would use the word inspiring, because I'm very fortunate to work with a lot of students in my daily routine. And they just inspire me so much. So it's like I used to work under Brianne too, who's totally iconic as well. Best shoes ever. Oh my God, I miss Brianne's shoes. But the students, they come, like, we have international students that we work with. We have students that come from other, cities, and they continue to inspire me every day. So even when I'm at my lowest, like, I'll say certain times that, they save me, because there'll be days where it's like, am I in the right place? What am I doing here? And those days that are really dark, and I have a student who comes in, like this one student the other day, I call her my bestie, Tori, right? She's in her wheelchair and she like zooms around. So she zooms super, super fast. But she's like this bright light. So there's so many different students that come in and they either have this really bright light and this energy, right? And so they come in and she's like, she gave me this little ducky, but I wasn't there. But she left me this little note that was like, I just wanted you to have this little ducky and I love you. And then she drew herself in a little wheelchair zooming on a Post-it note. So I was like, oh my God, I'm saving this forever. But it's those moments when they appreciate being seen, right? I always say, like, the best judge of character is youth, right? Is our kids, because a 5-year-old will tell you, don't wear that sweater again because that looks ugly on you, right? If you want an honest opinion, right? But our young people that I get to work with, they inspire me every day, just because they keep me grounded to like focus on what's here, what's present, and what matters. Because as much as they're going through their academic, work, what I love about my department student involvement is that we bring that balance. And what I like about Fresno State as a whole is we're very intentional about serving the student as a whole person, right? And I think that that's inspiring. So there's a lot of faculty that's inspiring, a lot of staff when you get to see them at work, working with students, like it's inspiring. Like those ones that have been here, like if you see like, right, Brianne, we're interacting with the student. When I see, my other coworker, working with the students, and you just see that natural experience come out with them, and you're like, wow, that's really amazing. How just the ease and just the knowledge and just so there's just different things in Fresno State that inspire, and our leadership that's very intentional. It's just all the way around. So I think that worked.
We've got a lot of passionate people on this campus and talented people who genuinely, like you said, you can see it in them. Their eyes light up when they're in the midst of doing or talking about the work that they're doing. And that is inspiring in and of itself.
What did you say?
I know
Okay,
you guys were going to call me
You're
out
still-
on
I'm
it.
like,
waiting.
I know. She's like, maybe we could just
I'm
keep
toying
going.
around with two words, and I can't decide which, so I'm going to say them out loud. I'm going to say both of them. I'd hyphenate them, but they wouldn't make sense hyphenated. So the two words that come to me, I think about community, because again, I don't look at this place as we're just in our bubbles doing our work. We truly are a full campus and community. But the other word that comes to my mind is connection, because I think that there's so much power in those connections, whether that's people connections, program connections, collaborations that we do. And those are the two things that I think they also align very much for me with my values of what is important to me in the kind of work that I do and something I want to contribute to. So those are the two I'm going to stick to. And yes, I know I'm breaking the rules,
Same
but
letter.
you know,
So they're both
right.
same
It just
words.
kind of blends together. We're just going to pretend.
So
you
we'll
know.
take that one rule with the letter.
Thank you.
I wholeheartedly believe, that word connection. I have made some really good connections across campus. And that's not to say that, we're not, I'm best friends with everyone. But I have a connection. I can call someone on campus or text them and say, I just need a prayer. I just need you to pray for me today. And they're like on it. And I have someone else that I say, I just need a vent for 5 minutes. And they're like, all right, let's do it. And then there's someone I can call and say, hey, I need, I've got this going on and I'd like to do this. And they're like, yes, let's figure it out. Putting this podcast together. If it wasn't for the connections that we built with so many across campus, it wouldn't have come to light.
Well, how special is that too, that we actually have staff groups like the Christian Fellowship, where you could, which I think it was one of the things I was like, wow, like we work in a space that allows the different avenues for you to thrive. Like, what is it that you need that you can? And I thought that was like, oh, okay, that's different from what I've worked in before. Because we can't take for granted those little bit of things too, like being able to ask somebody to pray for you while still acknowledging that some people don't. It's just a constant learning and how it all can work together if you just kind of put the work into it, right? So.
Well, and you talked about kind of compared to where you've worked previously, and I think that leads in really nicely because I'll admit for me, Fresno State's been my jobs. As a student, I worked here. I worked nonprofit for a while. I loved the work I did. I worked with one other person. So we were a very small but mighty crew. But then I came to Fresno State, and every job since has been either a Fresno State student employee position or professional staff position. So I don't have a lot of reference outside of this campus. So I'm curious from you guys, what makes Fresno State so much different, or what are some of those unique things that really stand out to you when you compare it? And I'm not saying we're picking on your previous positions, by the way. We're not picking on past worlds, but what makes Fresno State stand out differently for you?
You want to take that first?
Sure. So as I said, I had 20 years of working in the, private sector. And I learned so much from them. I was 19 when I started in banking. And so I was green, just learning, right? I was a mom already. I was a wife. And now
19.
I'm working at 19. Yes. Yes. At 19. So I learned so much, but it was definitely a different world than I would say it is here on campus. There was, we had lots of different branches in different areas. Our headquarters was in Texas. We had a training facility in Oakland. And so you didn't really get a chance to see all of those people all the time. like you were saying, you have those connections because you have the emails and stuff. You meet a few people here and there when you would have to actually travel to a training site or something like that. But the difference, I would say, is here I can see someone every month at a Red Friday. I can see those people that I'm emailing and talking to, at the holiday party or at, homecoming. And there's so many opportunities here that you get to see your peers.
Than just walking between meetings on this campus, right?
Walking open, the open forum that the president puts on, the assemblies at the beginning there's every month I can see my colleagues from across campus. And that's very unique compared to where I used to have to, it could be a year or two before I saw anyone else outside of my office.
Well, I think there's a lot of different things, and like what you've touched on as far as like the forums, right? Which is a very unique, I think, work experience that's common here, and it's one of those that I appreciate because there's something what I've learned with working with youth, right? So I was a teacher's aide in preschool, and I worked like after school care where I oversaw kindergartners through 8th grade. And it's always interesting to see their transitions, right? What I like is that you get to see that when they first come in. And if we're lucky to keep them those 4 years, so you get to see the beginning of their journey and the end of their journey. But to go back to the forums, and like with the students, because there's so much to be said. Our students want to be seen. And there's so much to be said of being heard, right? So you mentioned it earlier where somebody asked you, what do you think, right? And what I appreciate about Fresno State that's different is that there are those questions. So like those forums that the president has, whether you think, do they work? Does anything really happen? No, not right away, but for the few people that had something to say and there was a space for them to say it, that could mean so much to that particular person who said something. And I remember, I think it was the last one we had, right, in the fall. And as tense as it was, and what we were talking about, but what really speaks to what's special about Fresno State as well is that you had retired employees, you had our regular staff, you had student employee staff, all in the same room, having dialogue. Now, whether you think that's productive or not, it's still very important because one, it's intentional. And so I appreciate that compassionate and intentional leadership that we have. But it's dialogue. And it's important that we felt that one, we showed up for each other, right? Because I remember just looking and it's so weird because I know that's not the vision that it was, but the group of people just kind of piling on to each other, making that there's like the monument that's there. And I hope that that's not offensive in any way, but just looking at everybody gathered together. And I was like, I'm so proud of us. Like, it was just, I just kind of thought, I'm so proud of us for just coming to show up for each other. And I think as staff, we show up for each other. And my favorite saying 1,000,000 times, and I'll say it 1,000,000 times more, well-supported staff equals well-supported students. And when we feel supported, we can give our students 110%. And I know everybody on this campus, that's all that they want to do. And I know our students appreciate it. It's those small things, right? The greatest pleasure I get out of my job is seeing the students grow. Where else can you see? And it's a different, and it's a different dynamic from when they're younger, right? But the core thing that stays with students is some of them are coming straight out of high school. So I think we take for granted that, you go to college, you're supposed to already know and have it all together. But no, they come from a place where they're always receiving encouragement, receiving affirmations, receiving support, and then they come to college and they don't know where to look for that. And am I supposed to need that? So for some reason, that transition of, am I supposed to need this encouragement and this affirmation? Aren't I supposed to know? And it's really scary because they're like, this is my whole life. I'm making these decisions that are going to affect me forever. But what I feel Fresno State does really well is really just make the student consider themselves as a whole person, not where you're going to be, right? Not what your career is, just that. Who are you? And let us help you find who you are.
Well, that's the whole meeting them where they are.
Yeah.
And we say the same thing about, I know when I talk to leadership, I tell them the same thing. Whenever I'm in meetings and we're strategically planning campus and what the needs are for faculty and staff, we have to be met where we are, and we have to have programs and incentives and things on campus that meet us where we are, so that we can turn around and meet our students where they are. And I think we do a really good job here at Fresno State. Now, is there, of course, there's always room for improvement, but that's not a bad thing that there's room for improvement. I think that we're learning as we go. This year is not the same as it was 10 years ago, not the same as it was 5 years ago. I am not the same person I was 5 years ago or 10 years ago. So things are always evolving and things always have to change, and we got to grow with it. Mm-hmm. But I do think that, meeting our students where we are, meeting our faculty and staff where we are, that's another uniqueness to Fresno State that a lot of other places don't have.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate both of you kind of tapped onto that idea that, like, we're not perfect. I know this whole episode is about why we love Fresno State, and we do, but nothing's perfect. I think that's not our intent. I think with this episode is to paint it as this is the perfect picture of everything. Yeah, we have room to grow. We have things to do. But there's a lot to be celebrated. In fact, we have a whole week dedicated to it.
Yes, I heard Fresno State week. I'm repping my shirt. So
you're wearing the perfect shirt
right?
for this episode. I'm
they
loving
say,
it.
why I love Fresno State? Okay, well, let me wear my shirt. I'm always trying to represent where I can. Mm-hmm. So, which is March 24th to March 28th. I heard Fresno State week. So, which is more opportunities, right? Meeting people where they're at. Because speaking to that, to show up is really important. And so to take that step, you know what? I'm going to go to that and I'm going to do that. Yeah. And how do we help support? Yeah. So, and when is Day of Giving? 3/26?
It is the 26th, so Wednesday of I Heart Fresno State week, an opportunity to give back. And I know, I think Day of Giving, yes, there's an element of fundraising, right? We want to raise money to continue to support the work that we're doing. But it's also truly my favorite part of Day of Giving is it's an opportunity to tell the stories, to help showcase the great work that's being done, the incredible students we're serving, the work that they are doing. So it's a really unique opportunity. Hey, if you are so motivated to also give and support financially, obviously that is highly encouraged, but it's also being able to be okay with just saying, I just want to celebrate the great work that's being done here. I want to tell everybody about it. I feel like sometimes I come home and I'm on the phone ranting about, I had to talk to my student about this, or we just celebrated this great event and it was so much fun. So I think we naturally tend to share some of that. So it's kind of an extension of that for me, of how do we continue to tell the great stories of the work that we're doing.
Yes, I agree. So if giving is great. And if we can, absolutely. Yeah, it does go to a good cause. There are so many things that come out of giving back to our community. Yeah, it takes a village, right? If you can't, yeah, like you were saying, just showcase it. Put it on your social media. Tell others about it. Just tell the stories, like kind of what we are today. Tell your family and friends why you love Fresno State, and if they can give, then that'd be great. Sometimes I don't think I realized. Of course, I knew we were in a university. I knew that there was teaching, and I knew people got a degree, and I didn't realize the extent of what we do here at Fresno State until I started working here. So for those of you who do not work on campus, I can tell you that it is much more than just a job. We really are here, and we are encouraging, and we are helping, and we are, meeting our students where we are. And in some cases, we are hand-holding, and not to say that, I think everybody needs a little bit of, hand holding sometimes, or just to get them, to the right location. We do a lot more than just show up 8 to 5 and do a job. We are invested in our students. The toy drive, we saw the need, we do coat drives, we have our pantry, we want to make sure that our students are being fed, and all of these programs can be donated to.
Right.
And so just share the stories.
But I feel like each part we all contribute to the success of these students, right? No matter what you're doing, right? And so, shout out to the staff like that work behind the scenes. Like, know that your contribution does matter, because those of you in facilities who are taking care of our grounds, we have this beautiful space to walk in, and the students have this beautiful space to sit and study and connect, right? And to those, who do the background, the paperwork, the tedious work, when that goes smoothly, how that helps a student is it moves them along and helps them in their journey. And then to our leaders and our leadership who appreciate all that and how we can support them and their ideas and their research and their connections and how they want to teach the students, like it's all connected. And I think to myself too, as grown folk, I don't want to call myself old, just grown, but these students are going to be making decisions for me in the future. And so I would like them to remember me as, when they're thinking of those decisions for, the old folks that they have to take care of in their future, that, hey, there's a lot of those people that had helped me on that journey. And I know that they always come back and they remember. Right.
So the whole, I love Fresno State. I do want you to tell me a little bit more about what is happening that week, but I also wanted to look at it as, I heart Fresno State, but think about it in a personal sense too. When we were talking about it, it reminded me of our friend that used to work on campus, Rima Maldonado, who, I'm not sharing anything that she hasn't shared publicly. But she had it was a tragedy that happened. Gosh, I think it's 2 years ago this April, where she nearly lost her life. And what I think about that, and when I think about I Heart Fresno State, is we also have to remember us, and we have to take care of ourselves, and we need to make sure that we're listening to our bodies and listening to what is what our bodies are telling us. And if it's an emotional thing or if it's a physical thing, it doesn't matter. We need to pay attention to those small things as well.
I think it's safe to say that we could probably go on and on about this topic. There's a lot to be said about what makes Fresno State so special. I hope that our listeners will comment in and tell us what makes Fresno State special and unique to you. Why do you feel lucky to be here and a part of our Fresno State community? If you enjoyed the episode, we hope you'll subscribe. Make sure you're the first to know about our next episodes. And come see us get some tickets for the pancake breakfast. Come enjoy that celebration with us and be a part of iHeart Fresno State Week.
Yeah, just real quick, I want to do a little shout out to our fellow coworker and SAEC member, Chris Cruz, who has not been feeling well himself. And I just want you to know that we have been thinking about you and praying for you, and we hope you get better real soon. And we want you back.
Yeah, Chris, because we miss you.
We'll see you next time, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for watching the Bulldog State of Mind podcast. Join us for the next podcast in our series, released each month during our Red Friday celebration and available through our Fresno State Staff Assembly Executive Committee YouTube channel.